Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for taking some of your valuable time to join me today as I do one of the more important stories that I've ever come across. As people know, I've done contact modalities. I wrote a book, it's not yet out, but I've done two sort of previous similar books on contact modalities where the idea is that there are people in this world who can sort of leave this sort of physical plane and tap into another field, tap into God, tap into whatever. And so I wrote this book, and one of the things that I really got taken with was this idea of physical mediumship. And you will see in the UFO field, if you're familiar with Whitley Strieber, that Whitley Strieber wrote a book called Communion, and he got 200,000 letters from this book back in the 1980s. And his wife, Anne, was editing these letters, and she came out after a long period of time reading these letters, and she said, Whitley, whatever this UFO thing is, it has something to do with death. And I know there's some people in the Avery who have described the fact that if you can explain what's happening at the moment of death, you will explain all the mysteries. So what we're going to talk today about is about physical mediumship and about mediumship. And I have two guests with me, Reverend Kevin Lee and Walter Rucker. Now, they sort of came to me because basically, and we won't get into this today, but I was doing a DNA experiment, which I think will basically flip the world on its head if it actually works the way I think it's going to work. And so Walter actually contacted me and offered to help with this experiment. And then I found out that they were linked into this physical mediumship, which I think is basically very, very important for people to know and to realize this stuff is going on. And it answers so many questions. So I want to welcome these two guests, and I also want to welcome Sinead Wellahan, who's has come on as an assistant of mine to help me do interviews. She has sort of a vision of doing this kind of stuff. This is something that I am not that interested in. I'm more a researcher. So we're teaming up, and she's joining me today, and she may have a question or two. But I want to welcome Walter and Kevin to this very important discussion. And maybe we can start with Walter, and maybe you can sort of introduce yourself a little bit and your background and how you got into this. And then Kevin can take over, and then we can get into the questions about mediumship, physical mediumship, and why this is so important.
Great.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for this, by the way, Grant. Sinead, good to see you, and Kevin.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Walter.
I'm 68 years of age. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, in the paper products and printing industry with my father, and have a couple of adult sons. Been married coming up on 50 years. Wow. The way I got from here, Memphis, Tennessee, to physical mediumship and to Kevin is raising family and not paying much attention to anything metaphysical or spiritual, and until I was able to spend some time with myself and try to figure out some of those very basic questions. Where do we come from? What are we supposed to be doing? I was raised Roman Catholic. That didn't work out for me. So I started looking around for other things that might explain some of the questions that I had about my own personal existence. And it wasn't long until I happened upon Harry Potter. And Harry Potter was running around shooting magic out of his wand, and I thought, well, that's pretty cool. How does magic work? And magic took me to alchemy, and as Google will take you to anywhere it wants, it took me to physical mediumship, and this was probably 10 years ago. I'd never heard of it. I hadn't really heard much about mediumship. I've had psychics that opened up little 2-bit stores up and down the street from where I live, but it was about the closest I came to anything that would be metaphysical in nature. And next thing I know, I'm moving from Atlanta, Georgia, down to Naples, Florida. I'm across the Florida Peninsula from Kevin Lee in the Metaphysical Chapel of South Florida, where he's done such a fabulous job of promoting all kinds of psychism, mental mediumship, physical mediumship. We became close friends. He invited me to, and I've attended dozens of seances there and elsewhere. And Kevin, it's your turn now.